Hey guys, JPA Trades here. Gonna be going over my thoughts on Microsoft and then just kind of taking a look at the flow. I know it's been kind of a long time no see. I've been just kind of crazy busy with the move and everything, but kind of thanks for all the support and everything sticking with the channel, the YouTube while I'm kind of going through this time. The housing market's crazy, but hopefully it's all wrapped up. So here's my super amazing Microsoft TA here. Kind of a lot of people say head and shoulders, which it is a head and shoulders pattern, but we'll do a little bit more serious look than this rocket ship here, even though it's a pretty nice rocket ship. So here's kind of Microsoft kind of the last 6 months. So here's your head and shoulders everyone's talking about. But what I'm seeing here is that last earnings call where we fell down to 269 and then kind of had that recovery back up to 315. So we're right kind of in that same area. We have a lot of bottoms here. So we have that 269, we have 271, and we have, get it, 270. So we're right about that same spot, 273. We bought into the red because, as I've said on Twitter, Microsoft and Apple have really been the primary leaders. Tesla's been doing a good job too, but really the kind of the bread and butter, it seems like, for the market has been Apple and Microsoft. It's kind of holding this whole thing together. Obviously, the last couple of days hasn't been too good, but kind of curious to see where it shakes out. We're kind of right at that decision point. So I think Microsoft is an interesting stock to play either on earnings or right after earnings, just because here you are. If 269 fails, you're likely going to see a big sell-off again. Maybe just large trigger down, just like I said on Twitter. If Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Google, 3 out of 4 of those guys miss, you're going to see a really bear trend, and all those head and shoulder patterns I think are going to come to fruition, where you just see massive sell-off. But if Microsoft can deliver some good news, can cause some upside reaction, you have so many earnings calls coming up. Just want to show you guys that real quick again in case you didn't notice. So nothing really too big to speak of, but yeah, Tuesday, Microsoft, Google, both reporting. Texas Instruments, which can impact NVIDIA and AMD too, so that could trigger some sort of rally in the semis. You got Boeing on Wednesday. You got Facebook on Wednesday. Then you got Caterpillar going, Twitter going on to Thursday before the open. So Twitter's interesting. You might see some kind of reaction back to what Elon Musk has to say. And then Apple and Amazon Thursday afternoon. So you have these major FANG players all coming into play after such a beatdown market. So that's why I kind of gave the funny 469 answer here, because if they all come back and say, hey, even during this rate increase, even during this tough inflation, all this terrible news you see, we still really delivered on our quarters and seen good numbers, it's going to trigger shorts to cover. It's going to start to rally back up, and you'll see a few weeks of relief. And conversely, if it misses, you're just going to see that big sell-off. And you want to be kind of in stocks that are either right at the bottom or right at the top. So another interesting one to think about for earnings is Facebook. Because here you are again, new lows, nothing stopping it from here. If they miss on earnings, you can just see it tank again. So Facebook is another interesting one on earnings, where if it just starts tanking, it's just going to keep going. And it has this huge, here's when Apple adjusted its software settings so they couldn't do their ad sharing, so the targeted ads. So if Facebook announced that they have some sort of workaround to what Apple's doing, they say, hey, we're still able to get those targeted ads, you might see a really big rally happen in Facebook if they can address that concern, if they can put that mind at ease. If not, I think you could see another Netflix type reaction out of Facebook, and that was kind of already felt after Netflix has had its growth decline. So you had that sell-off already kind of baked in. So if Facebook can give you any kind of positive news, you can really see a change start to happen. But for Apple's kind of right in the middle here, so it's middle of the range. So you got this bottom like 145, you got another one around 150, but you're kind of sitting at 161. So even if you had a bad quarter, someone's going to step in at 150, try to buy. Has a great quarter. You have that upside to 180. That's pretty good. So you have kind of I wouldn't be overly excited to play Apple, but I would be excited to see a strong reaction or a bad reaction, because then you'll kind of have a clear direction of the market. I think a lot of the fear is already priced in, but if the news change, which is this earnings report, that's going to dictate it, because news trumps any pattern, but you can use patterns to predict the news. So you just got to be in places that make sense to be in. So I think Facebook and Microsoft make the most sense. Amazon's kind of interesting. You're kind of getting towards that 2,700. We're at 2,880. So you're kind of right in that range, but it'd be better to be either all the way at the bottom of the range going in. Let's say Microsoft misses and Amazon goes down to 2,600. Well, if you think that Amazon's crushing it, it might be worth it for you to go and put some kind of call out there, maybe do some further out of the money or longer term, or buy some stock just to see what happens. But if you think Amazon's going to miss, it'll be worth it for you to take that short position, because there's no support saving it across the last 6 months. You're going to see that dive start to happen. So it's all about kind of being set up in a good risk-reward position. So I personally think Microsoft is the best risk-reward position, because if it gives up 269, it's going to die anyway as soon as it goes down. But if it holds, every time it hit that low, you see these huge candles, huge reaction, backs up, hits that low, rockets back up, hits that low, rockets back up. And it's about a week-long move. So that's why we bought next week's calls and didn't do anything for the weekly. And it might even be worth it. If we're down again tomorrow, I might give myself 2 weeks of time just to kind of see what happens, see if it plays out. Because I think we're right in that good area where something might happen. And then let's just take a look. We'll take a look at unusual whales too. Maybe we will. There we go. So I share a lot of unusual whale stuff all the time. The intraday analyst is the primary tab I use. I think it's from the Buffett package. And I'll put a link in the description for kind of what I think here. So let's just take a look at Microsoft. So this is just Friday's action, so kind of nothing really setting this clearly apart. Kind of like the calls getting adjusted, but what I really want to see is kind of what the max pain for next week is. So 290, more, so higher, lower than our 300 calls we have, but there is cost bets out there. Still need to get, sometimes lose myself in these tabs. Here we go. So what's getting, so there's all the other ones, but here's what's the highest OI, and that's what we want to look at. So there's a lot of bullish bets. The biggest OI and the biggest bullish bet are Microsoft 320 calls for May. So that's really good for my thesis, in my opinion, is if it's going to, they're not, these people that put these huge money positions out there and these huge open interests, they're not looking to do like a weekly trade like we are. They're looking to have their money out there, capture a big move, and then go. Same thing with these 330s, 340s, 360s all down there. A lot of bullish activity, some bearish activity in the 335 calls. But you just have to kind of look and see what's going on with everything. So I'm mostly watching just to see if we can deliver and keep running all week. It's going to be really, really good for us because Microsoft earns on a Tuesday, so 4/26. So if you have that Tuesday, run into the anticipation of Apple earnings and just kind of rake all that premium in. And there was also a 300 put sold on Friday. So they're saying if you sold the 300 put for $27 and $2 million, if it goes to 300 or above, that person who sold that put, it's going to be worthless. Well, it's a 617, but nearly worthless. So there's a lot of really, really good activity I'm seeing here. So if we can start to see some sort of any kind of bullish hints, which they might not give it to us going into the earnings report, but any kind of bullish hint. I know Elon was making fun of Bill Gates, but Bill Gates doesn't really, he's just Mr. Microsoft. He doesn't he's not really in the mix with Microsoft like he was before. So the Twitter drama, the drama mamas out there, we don't got to worry about it. We just got to stay. I like the activity. I like the risk reward here. If they miss, obviously the calls are going to go worthless and the puts will be really worth it. But you'll have clear direction on what's going on. This is another big earnings week, so you don't really want to go overly heavy on what's going in the earnings. You don't want to be putting your whole account on these Microsoft calls. You want to be putting your whole account on Microsoft puts. You don't want to all in Apple calls, all in SPY calls go, and you really, really don't want to do that. But if you see like another proxy way to play is, let's say SPY gets beat up on Monday, it might be worth it to take some far out of the money SPY calls for the end of the week if you think that we're going to see a good reaction from Apple, Amazon, Microsoft. I think Facebook is kind of irrelevant for the grand scheme of the market just because it's been so beat down and so kind of just bludgeoned over the last few weeks that it's not really not a driver like it used to be. It's not. Microsoft and Apple are pretty much the clear driver. Same with Tesla. You don't want to. I don't think I'd read too much into Facebook. I'd be mostly focused on Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Apple. And I might have rambled a little bit here. Got to get kind of back into the YouTube thing, but just thanks as always for kind of staying and supporting me through everything. Really, Team Algonaut, everyone on YouTube, Twitter, means the world to me that you kind of stick with me. Happy to say that I finally reached the threshold from all you guys liking the videos, watching the videos, that we can try to get monetized. No idea how it works, so I'm curious to see how it all finds out. But hey, love you all for that. I really appreciate it and hope you have a great weekend.